Hello, welcome to today's edition of Pod of View. My name is Shuge. With me here is Anayo, who's going to be joining me for today's conversation. We're going to be having very insightful conversations today, starting with a very interesting one. Just yesterday, a number of legislators came together to work on a bill to be passed for the reservation of 182 seats for women for the push of gender equality in the legislature. So, Hanayo, concerning the reserved seats, the female lawmakers are trying to pass a bill for 182 reserved seats. What are your thoughts concerning this?
Well, like I said, it's not a new idea. It has been there since 1999. They need to have more women in the legislature and have them, provide a seat reserved for women. But you remember that in the night Senate, the attempt failed with people voting against the bill at the state level, that
Yes.
is, the houses of
Yes.
assembly voted against it. And this has a lot to do with the culture. We have a patriarchal system of that we're practicing. A lot of people frown at women coming to power at all. Now, if you bring the idea of having seats reserved for them, it may not sound pretty good in their ears. This could be as a result of their chauvinism. Some people are outrightly misogynist in when it comes to women in politics,
Yes.
right? And they don't want women. Others think that why should such seats be reserved for women in the first place? Why shouldn't women go into the ring, throw their hearts into the ring, and fight like men? To those people, they think that women have capability to become leaders and not necessarily to be treated as
Yes.
special persons.
Yes.
But this is not the first time. I will be surprised if the bill succeeds this time, even though it's coming from very top um, level of the National Assembly
Yes.
with the support of civil society organizations. I don't see it succeeding. The best the bill can do is get thumbs up from the southern part of Nigeria. Some of the states, core states in the north, may not vote in favor of this bill, for obvious reasons. I mean, this is not the first time. Some cultures here welcome the fact that women should play second fiddle. And it's not actually for the wrong reasons, even though if you're not from there, you may not understand the reason why they're asking for that. So some cultures may not really be open to having, women play very active role. And you can see that in the number of women in governance. I think, if I'm not mistaken, in the House of Representatives, for instance, we'll have about reportedly 15. In the current Senate, about 4. But in the sixth Senate, we had almost, I think, 8 female lawmakers in the upper legislative chamber, and maybe a similar or closer number to that in the House of Representatives. And most of those, aside from Senator Zainab Kure from Niger State and the late Aisha, of blessed memory, from Adamawa State, the rest were from the South. So you can see the
So it's
the
more.
coloration.
There's a very cultural undertone in it as
Yeah,
well.
there is, and that has been there over the years. And whether this particular bill will can change anything, I am yet to see whether something different will happen now. Because for any law to be made, it has to pass through the state houses of assemblies, and two-thirds of 36 plus 7,
Yeah.
state houses of assembly, and two-thirds at the National Assembly. Well, you can say at the National Assembly is possibly going to scale through, because the speaker and others the deputy speaker and others can understand the need to have more women. But at the grassroots level, where politics is played at East Royce level, you may not see this happen.
That's very very interesting. But if we're talking about in terms of merit, you said some people may not want this bill to pass through because they feel as though women should be able to fight for their seats and their places just like everybody else. And we already see even though it's about a 4% representation in the legislature today, in the 10 Senate as you said, but those women fought for the seats they have.
They did.
Yeah. So in a case whereby seats are reserved, 182 seats are reserved, and those women come in. Do you think that they will be the Nigerian populace will look at them on the same level with the few women who have been able to fight for their seats? I mean, a typical example of that is someone like Senator Natasha and all that she's going through now.
Yeah.
In fact, as a matter of fact, she had to go through the court and she came in, and so she resumed the Senate late, about 6 months or so after the Senate had resumed and everybody had already come in. So, I mean, this is not to say that women cannot do it. Clearly, women can do it. But my conversation is, will the reservation of 182 seats affect the thinking of merit, that these people did not merit the seats, even though they will campaign and whatnot.
Yeah, they will campaign.
But
I mean,
at the same
it will
time,
be
the seats
for
have
women.
already, you sort of already have a leg up.
Yes. Well, it will do. There are two sides to this. On one hand, it will open up the space for women. If you say 182 seats for women and women are going to compete, it's not as if they're going to be given the positions free.
Yeah, but they're competing against other women. They're not
Other
competing
women.
against men.
First, that will kind of clear the air on this general perception that women who go into politics are wayward.
Okay.
The women have been, especially those in politics, have been stigmatized. Why should a woman go into politics? How should a woman? I mean, how can a woman stay out late in the night? Because political meetings take place in the night. I know there are question marks put on their behavior.
Why do boys go meetings take place at night? That's the question.
Well, it's a cloak and dagger business. The politics is not a Sunday school class. It's struggle
But they
for
can't do it in
it's
the
struggle
daytime, though.
between opposing forces.
But they can do their meetings
in the daylight. No, but brown envelopes are not can show in the daylight.
Okay.
But you see, seriously speaking, the women have come under heavy criticisms over. So some of them shy away from going to politics
Yes.
for want of lack of, I mean, so that people won't say something wrong about them.
Okay.
But if you now say, okay, legally or constitutionally, in 182
You have to
seats,
participate.
you have to participate. This is meant for you.
Yes.
You can see more women will come out,
Yes.
and they'll feel, look, this is our turf. Let's go and play. And no one's going to say we are loose or we are wayward.
But at the same time, this opens the door to other conversations. Like, if
Yeah.
we're reserving seats for women, we might as well reserve seats for people with disabilities.
That's
We
right.
might as well reserve seats for youth.
Yeah.
We might as well reserve seats for. We're going to find every other reason to
Yes.
reserve seats for, aside from men. And so now it brings up the conversation. So, do you think men don't deserve to get a leg up? When in terms
No,
of, so
they-
when we're talking about like in terms of affirmative action now, it just opens the door to a wider conversation.
Yes, I agree with you. It does open the door to a wider conversation, but don't forget that since 1999, especially in Nigeria, we'll be talking about men. So much presence of men in the National Assembly, in the executive, in the judiciary. Luckily, we have a CGN who's a woman, and you can see that.
But that was an appointment, though.
Of course, an appointment. But before her were men.
Yes.
We've never had a female vice president. We've never had a female president. We had a female governor, but that was by default in Anambra State. But
And briefly, too.
and briefly, and you can see the way people reacted. It was like
Yeah.
there was this shock. A woman in charge. There are cases where women who attempted to contest for governorship positions in the southeast were told to step aside because look, it shouldn't be a woman serving cola to men in public. So such biases, such primordial sentiments. I call them primordial because they no longer should have be mentioned in today. Sadly, other African countries are beginning to move ahead of Nigeria.
Yes.
We have
Significantly.
I think we have someone who's a president in a part of Africa. We have there was a time some group of female lawmakers came to Nigeria expressing gratitude to Nigeria for his assistance to them. But you find out that they have almost 50-50 lawmakers in places like Rwanda. So smaller countries are beginning to wake up while we still think about see women as
Do you think we're ever going to move past the chauvinistic, the patriarchal
no,
mindset?
sadly, we're not going to get out of there anytime soon, and that is why I think this bill may suffer setbacks. Just we have to wait and see. Nothing is going to change, and the same people who voted against such bill in the Night Senate are still around, and the sentiment has not gone away. We're going to see this bill probably negatived and not becoming law. But I am a supporter
I
of.
mean, but we don't know. You don't know what could
Because
happen. It could, just find a way
no,
to
there
wiggle
are
through.
no.
It needs 2/3 of the vote.
Well, just like the creation of states, this
Yes,
every bill like this will have to go through,
absolutely.
and you find out that some states in some regions in Nigeria will kick against it, and say no, we don't want that. We love our women, but we can't be rubbing shoulders with them, and they'll tell you pleasantly that this is it's not as if they don't have any trust in women. They know women can deliver, but in their culture, women shouldn't rub shoulders with men. And generally, too, the African society is actually patriarchal. But other countries are trying to get away from this. In Ghana, you see some with female lawmakers, making where Kemi Badenoch to be a Nigeria contestant, she wouldn't have gotten to be the leader of any political party. But she's a leader of the Conservative Party in the UK. So we are making things difficult for women. I think if we could give a wild card to a bill, I would suggest that we give the particular bill a wild card
To
just to
just
make
to
it
just
become law.
coast
But it's
through.
not possible. And anyone that tries to do that will suffer backlash. For
Yes.
instance, if President Tinubu stands up and says, "Look, this law should be through executive order, let's make this work," some people will say, "What's he talking about? Does he
I,
not know
I,
our
I'm, I'm
rules?"
I'm inclined to agree with you because the last time that a bill like this was passed, the request was for 111 seats,
Yeah.
which is significantly less than the request
And
now,
it
which is
didn't
400,
work.
and it didn't work. And they also had one of the supporters of that bill was the former, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, who is now the Chief of Staff to Mr. President, and it still didn't pass through. We had people of that caliber, so I'm inclined to agree with you that even now the chances
It may
of
not
this
likely,
the
even if
chances of this bill
the
passing through are
president
slim.
is a man who would welcome such a bill to become law and will not hesitate to sign it when it gets to his table. But the problem will be
Supporting
how
it.
will it get to his table?
Yes.
It has to pass. It has to go through the states, come back to the National Assembly to third voting before it's passed in both chambers after concurrence before becoming law. So, but I know that the civil society groups are working hard. The both chambers of our National Assembly will not want to be seen as working against a bill that seeks to empower women. I mean, what they're asking for is not impossible.
Okay.
Look, leave the 109 seats in the Senate, leave the 360 in the House of Representatives, just create an extra 186. You may give it another name. You may just say, okay, this 170, 82 seats, you just be contributors, you'll be observers, or you'll be part of the committees, but you're not going to produce the principal officers. Just to have people to argue during in terms of debates, contribution, because women have a lot to offer. And some of them will stay back home and watch, even when the men make mistakes, even in your own home, the woman will sit back and watch you go through the mud you set up yourself. And when you're tired, you come back and ask for advice. And in fact, more often than not, those advices help you out.
Yeah.
But the chauvinism in men, you want to go ahead and do it yourself, you're the top guy, you're the um, a man in the house and all of that. So more often than not, you run into trouble and only cry back to your wife and say, please help me. And the women are meticulous when it comes to administration and governance. And that's why I think they should be given a chance. And all this talk about why should women go into politics, women who are in politics are loose and wayward, it's just, to me, not right. Some people just do it because, I mean, who says women can't be intellectuals? They are.
Yes.
I think it has a
I mean,
lot to
we,
do
we
with
see
our
it in different
mentality.
parts of the world.
Yes, and maybe jealousy on the part of some men. How can a woman sound this? And some people actually get intimidated. So the chauvinist, when you're made to confront a female professor, and maybe she's your examiner, your mind will first go back to that
Yes.
chauvinism in you. We don't need for you to realize that the person you're standing before is a professor of probably the course you're reading. So men should do a lot to get over that hangover. It's
All
a level
right.
playing ground. I mean, come to think of it, the pilots that bombed the Iranian nuclear facilities were female bombers. I
Yeah,
mean,
we're
they flew
female pilots.
America's
Yeah.
most expensive fighter
Yeah.
jets.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about?
All right. I didn't think we were going to go from the bill to female
We
bombers.
are talking
But
about
okay.
what women can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
That's points to them. All
Yeah,
right.
sure. And that's why I do not question the rationale
Yes.
behind President Tinubu's giving the Falcons, even though you and I did not agree on that.
That's a whole
I'm sure
different
now
conversation. That's not.
to,
But that money was
to
still too
reward
much.
them.
But that money was too much.
Well, you said a lot, and I said too little.
No, so the presidency gave them $100,000 each, which in naira is about 152 or 162 million naira, which is not the president giving them this money out of his own pockets. So it's the president giving them this money from it's Nigeria's money.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Now, the spokesperson for the presidency, Bayo Onanuga, came out and said, look, in Big Brother Nigeria, they are winning 150 million naira. But that's a company giving them money. That's not a country giving them the money. You have to look with the state of that the country is in now. Should the president really be giving out about 3 billion?
And I'm saying that they should
naira?
have given them more than that, because if they had lost to in the semi-finals, for instance, I mean, nobody would have remembered. Maybe they would have gone home to their whatever they are staying without being celebrated. And even in Europe and America, footballers earn more than the average public servant.
Yeah,
but you know why they don't complain?
But
the public
they are
servants
not
are
paid. But they are not paid by the country. They are paid by the club, the association.
Yes. But you can see in Morocco, the king of Morocco is borrowing a leaf from Nigeria. I don't know how much he's going to give the Moroccan girls, but he has also welcomed them. So Nigeria is actually.
Well, first of all, he's the king, right? So
yes,
it's different.
We have a president.
Yeah, it's not the same thing.
Well,
It's not the same
the
thing.
letters are not the same, but they're almost playing the same role. King and president.
And if you look at it economically, Morocco and Nigeria are not in the same place.
Sugar, the truth is that where are these girls coming from? You know, they are coming from. They are Nigerians. You know, they are coming.
A number of them don't even live in Nigeria. Let's begin from
Yes, and for those that live here, they may have played through, suffered to get nominated, suffered to. If you ask an average player what it takes to play from the local level to the team level, in any case, when was the last time you watched a Nigerian female football match league?
I don't think
you don't remember it's there. Yes. But people are playing there. Yes. So when that particular player moves from the female football league and gets to the national level and plays all through, gets selected and wins a national honor, 160 million naira is not too much.
So it's not too much.
We have had players slump and die.
If we had excess money, it's not too much. Yeah. The federal government is still owing the electricity distribution companies, which is what we're going to be discussing shortly, 4 trillion naira.
That's right.
And the president is giving out 3 billion naira to girls that play football, not to discount what they did.
If you think that is too much, the president's wife is giving 1 billion to Yewata.
Because there was a flooding there.
Well, see.
And she's not giving that from the country's money. She's giving that from her non-governmental organization.
Her personal money.
Exactly.
Now,
let's see.
I am not worried about the amount given to these girls, because I remember when I was in Lagos at the Surulere Stadium when Obaraji slumped and died on the pitch. And I know, I'm just telling you what can happen. So when he died, you can ask yourself today, what has happened to the late Obaraji? The mother died penniless. In fact, it was the Swan Sports Writers Association of Nigeria that kept helping the mom. So I'm talking about what can happen to a player. Do we have to wait for people to die to
No, we should not wait for them to die. But he could have given them $50,000. Look, I believe there's a reason why the amount was not the naira equivalent of that amount was not what was put out by the presidency. I believe there's a reason why it was put in dollars. Why do you think they put $100,000?
Was the match
to throw people off?
The match wasn't played in naira. It wasn't played on Nigerian ground. The match was played on international field.
That should not affect.
So even what the money,
he also gave them national honors, gave them houses.
Yes,
which is all great. That's fine.
You see, that's where chauvinism is coming. And if it was a Super Eagles,
I'm
not saying chauvinist. No, I'm talking about the general feeling out there.
Yes.
If the Super Eagles had won the Nations Cup and the president gave out 150,000,
I would still say it was a lot of money.
No,
I would still say it's a lot of money. I would say it's less.
A lot of Nigerians.
I believe a number of Nigerians will still say that's too much money.
Reportedly questioned the rationale behind that money. I'm saying just
as
like
he
you
should. Yes.
The number increased of those criticizing the reward because they are women. The players are women.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay,
I refuse to make this a gender conversation. It's not a gender thing.
Yeah, no,
I think it's just
to a point.
I think it's an economic thing.
Because they quickly tell you, Okocha, for instance, plays in this league. He has much more money. Or Osimhen has more money than that. But because these are very honest young ladies who are playing. You feel the money is too much for them?
No, that's not. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's
No, but
definitely not what I'm
if
saying.
it was a Osime group,
First of all, you have to understand that those if this was they were the Super Eagles, a number of them, someone like Osime, $100,000 probably is what he uses in 2 weeks. Exactly.
So why you
right?
why
Because
you
he earns like almost 50 million euros. No, but I'm saying understand. First of all, they may not be poor. I don't say people are poor. No, don't. They may not be poor. I'm simply saying. Understand what I'm saying? This is not a gender thing. I'm saying because of the situation that the country is in now economically, giving out 3 billion naira and some change might not have been the best.
But it's big deal to the president because he knows that
the president said he didn't watch the match.
Yes, does it matter whether he watched it or not? He said his wife was in the kitchen too cooking. Now, what it matters to the president because it will be recorded that under President Tinubu, Nigeria won the 10th time. This is Mission X accomplished. It was 10 times, the 10th time. Okay. So it means much to Mr. President. So don't worry about the amount because.
No, I'm not worried. I'm not the one that got the 100,000. If I got it, I wouldn't be saying the money was too much.
Someone's going to steal something larger than that amount between now and 2027.
Now, on to electricity. In 2013, the Nigerian government sold what was then known as the PHCN, the Power Holding Company of Nigeria, and broke it down into generating distribution companies and distribution companies, or as we know them today, popularly Gencos and Discos. The Gencos generate electricity, and the distribution companies spread it across the country. Since 2013, since now, the electricity situation in Nigeria has not improved. And so the Electricity Amendment Bill of 2013 is now being amended. And part of that amendment is that Nigerian government, which held on to a 40% stake in the companies, are now considering selling 11 distribution companies. And will this in any way, do you think, improve the electricity situation in the country, or is this just a segment rather that just needs a complete overhaul?
Now, if we now say sell 11 discos, what did we do before?
Maybe we sold this to the wrong people.
No, maybe we just handed over what was left of a PSCN to friends of the government, businessmen with lack of experience, who had enough, size and portfolio to take them. So we didn't really look at professionalism. We didn't look at managerial skill. I've always been a critic of the work of the discos. They've done a shabby job.
Okay.
Even with the meterization system we have now, you find out that the discos, most of those who are operating the discos came to the table with nothing. So what we saw then in 2013 and thereafter were people who just came, took contracts and told the government they were going to manage electricity in Nigeria, and it didn't work, and it's not work. So if you say that wasn't selling, then we can say we want to now sell. But to me, that was selling. So what we're doing, I want to resell the discos to a new set of investors. Whether that will bring some perfect job in the system remains to be seen. But I think what government did wasn't properly done. We had discos who are still managing government infrastructure. They didn't bring any new infrastructure.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they were overcharging the consumers. Enugu State just recently said, look, our people can't continue to pay these tariffs on electricity. It's impossible. And we found out that NERC didn't like the idea of what Enugu State government did. And the other state governors said, look, we can't have our people paying this amount of tariffs for electricity. So the current discos are just there to make money. And each time you ask them to look at their own side and see what they can take cut for the people, they complain. So you can't have the people paying all the time, and you want government to pay subsidy so what are you really working for? So I think the government has realized that ab initio there was a mistake, and that there's need to bring in investors with large personnel, large funds to manage this, so that when we sell them off outrightly. So when you buy, and pay to the government, you can now manage it. And the government can only say, okay, look, with this buying, let's see what can we do for the city. Because at the end of the day, it is the citizens that matter, the consumers that matter.
Yes.
It's a good idea. Only that the government waited for Senator Engineer Baribe's. The amendment you're seeing now was as a result of the report of the Senator Engineer Baribe committee report
Yes.
on power sector.
Yes.
So it was that report was accompanied by a motion for this bill to amend this to see.
the
And
act.
aside from that, there are still issues of what should be on the concurrent list, what should be on the exclusive list, where should government come in power generation, where should the state come in? Can states generate power independently without consulting the federal government? And someone asked the question when we discussed it and said, look, for instance, who manages Shiroro power? Because it's something that was built for the entire country.
Yes.
Can we now say the Niger State, Shiroro power belongs to Niger State? If yes, will Niger State be using Shiroro to generate power for its only citizens and all that? Because it's even bigger than the state. So there are needs to straighten out some of these difficulties in the Electricity Act that was passed in 2019. All of this, and the fact that we need to know the job of discos, what they are doing, and what we are generating and what we are consuming. All of this will take, but they were given just 4 weeks. I'm sure that that committee in the Senate will come back if they are not done yet in 4 weeks.
Yes.
To ask for more time.
That will have to be after the recess.
Well, yeah, I mean, the president of the Senate did say, look, yes, the report can come back after the recess,
Yes.
but they are supposed to work within the period of the recess.
recess.
For 2 months, they should be able to come up with something.
Okay. Well, in 2013, when this sale was happening, we were generating about 3,000 megawatts.
That's right.
That's what Nigeria was generating. And now that 2025, we're still generating between 3,000 to 4,500. So there's not been much increase there.
Yes.
Although we have the infrastructure to handle 15,000 megawatts in the
There's
country.
the infrastructure to handle.
Yes. But we're not generating up to that
Yes.
still.
So like we built the infrastructure.
Yes.
And we didn't bother about whether we
The
built
generation.
And I said this before, that what the 3,000 megawatts, maybe less than what the Silicon Valley is consuming in the US, just a small space.
Yeah.
Silicon Valley. And someone said, look, 4,000 megawatts, if you throw it into Las Vegas, most of the casinos will consume what we consume as a country. South Africa is hitting 50,000 megawatts, and we're struggling with 4. So little wonder why you hardly see light. And
But what is stopping the complete privatization of that sector? Because it's an option that seems as though might be the best way forward now. Because as it stands, the federal government is having a subsidy outstanding of 4 trillion naira, which we've not even begun to pay yet, and we don't know how that's going to go. Then that's even just putting aside the debt for the country and all the other outstanding payments that the country has to make.
Yeah, and for instance, I'll give you an example. The Daily Times of Nigeria was privatized. I think Nitel was also sold.
Yes.
And, Nigeria built these institutions, as that will last for long. And, it's not just these institutions. There are so many things to benefit when you buy up. There were questions over why government should sell the Daily Times. That was defunct. Because people were looking at the properties, nationwide properties owned by Daily Times, like Nitel. For instance, if you want to privatize PSCN completely, whoever is buying it is also paying for the entire properties owned by.
Yes.
And it's huge. Yes. It's huge. So that is why when you talk about selling off outrightly, a lot of interest will show. I say, what is the individual buying? Because we know that PSCN as it stands has more than enough properties across the country.
Yes.
It's like say, okay, let's privatize the railway. That's also huge.
Yes.
If you privatize the railway or selling off the railway completely, which is not possible, which is not right, you mean you're selling off about 10% of Nigerian landmark to whoever is buying it, because 40 meters on both sides of the track belongs to railway.
Wow.
40 meters on the right.
Wow.
And
40 meters on the
yes,
left.
and you're talking about a railway that goes from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri back to Kano, Kaduna, and then talking back to Lagos.
Yes.
So the individual who buys up this owns. So that's why it's difficult for sometimes for government to, and that's why the existence of the exclusive list and the concurrent list. And government is still trying to manage, because we're in crisis. So government is trying to manage these things to see that we don't just sell off and begin to regret later. Yeah.
That's very, very important and very eye-opening also. This sector is one that needs a lot of focus and attention.
Planning.
Yes.
And being careful.
Yes. All right. Well, there you have it. It has been a very interesting conversation today, starting off with the bill, the request for 182 reserved seats for female lawmakers and female participation in the country, and then we segued very briefly to the amount of money given to the Super Falcons for winning the WAFCON, and then lastly on electricity. Thank you very much for listening to Pod of View. Once again, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more episodes.